In the early 1930s, Duke Ellington and his band toured the segregated South. There they faced racism at every turn. A young and stunning black performer, Fredericka Carolyn Washington, affectionately known as Fredi, also traveled with the band. She was graceful and extremely light-skinned, which allowed her to, quote, pass as white in the color-obsessed South. During the tour, she took advantage of her skin color to slip into whites-only ice cream parlors and buy ice cream for the entire band. However, Washington refused to use her light skin for economic or social gain. Despite the harsh segregation and overwhelming prejudice against African Americans, she embraced her heritage. Unlike other actresses during Hollywood's golden age, like Merle Oberon, who was Anglo-Indian, and Rita Hayworth, who was Spanish-American, Washington refused to hide who she was in order to gain admission to white Hollywood.
This is African American History is American History.
Fredericka Carolyn Fredi Washington was born on December 23, 1903, in Savannah, Georgia, and moved to Harlem with her family during the Great Migration, when black families fled the Jim Crow South in search of new opportunities in northern cities. Even at an early age, Washington knew that regardless of her looks, she would always be considered a black woman by white audiences. Her green eyes and light skin simply did not meet the common white expectations of what an African American looked like during that era, unless she passed as white. Now, the term passing simply means the ability of a person to be regarded as a member of an identity group or category, such as racial identity, ethnicity, caste, social class, sexual orientation, gender, religion, age, and or disability status that is often different from their own. Racial passing allowed black Americans to sidestep racism faced by black people and claim the privilege of whiteness in public spaces. Now, this practice was and is seen by many African Americans as a way of outwitting the system of oppression and making fools of those who believed the nonsense of white racial purity and supremacy. But it also alienated those passing from their friends and family and their culture. A black woman at that time who passed might be considered white, but she ran a constant risk of losing her privilege once it was discovered that she was really black, and of being shunned by black people once they learned that she was claiming whiteness. Fredi Washington, instead of turning her back on her race, celebrated it. She immersed herself in the Harlem Renaissance, which during that time was growing into a cultural oasis and a breeding ground of African American artistic production. Already a talented singer and dancer, she became a chorus girl and then an actress, traveling to Europe and starring in stage productions in New York.
This is African American History is American History.
During Hollywood's heyday, black actors had very few opportunities. The majority of black people on film could only be seen in, quote, race films, end quote, designed for all black audiences. Those who did break into movies for white audiences were relegated to subservient or stereotypical roles. But Washington broke through that barrier in a 1934 film called Imitation of Life. Ironically, the film explored the very same practice of passing that she had declined to adopt in her own life. In the film, she played the role of Peola, the daughter of a black housekeeper played by Louise Beavers, whose life is closely intertwined with that of a white widow and her daughter. Peola turns her back on her mother, who dies a dramatic death brought on by her life of self-denial and sorrow over her daughter's betrayal. The movie, which starred Claudette Colbert as the white friend, dealt frankly with interracial identity, passing, and the similarities and differences between black and white women. These were themes that had never been explored in mainstream Hollywood before, and unlike all films for white audiences that came before it, Imitation of Life treated the stories of its black and white characters with equal importance. White audiences saw Peola's story as a black person's struggle to be white, while black audiences saw Peola's struggle to accept herself as a passionate cry for equality. Both the film and Fredi Washington became a big hit with the black community, in part because of how it was marketed. Washington and Louise Beavers were heavily featured in an unprecedented special trailer produced by Universal Pictures and only ran in segregated movie houses. For the first time, black moviegoers got to see themselves represented in a major motion picture, not as buffoons or as comic relief, but as fleshed-out characters with real human emotions. Ironically, Washington's breakthrough role cut short her acting career. She became so identified with Peola that it was hard for her to get other roles. Since white Hollywood refused to cast black women in romantic parts, she couldn't get leading lady roles. They considered her too beautiful and not dark enough to play maids, but much too light to act in all black movies. She made her last movie appearance just 3 years after Imitation of Life. Her last film role was in the 1937 film 1 Mile from Heaven. But her career wasn't done yet.
This is African American History is American History.
In 1937, Washington helped found what would become the Negro Actors Guild of America, a group that advocated for less stereotypical roles and better working conditions for black actors. She also became a drama critic, writing theatrical reviews for African American newspapers, and served as a casting consultant for films and theatrical productions that concerned race. In a 1945 interview with the Chicago Defender, Fredi Washington said,
"Early in my career, it was suggested that I might get further by passing as French or something exotic. You see, I'm a mighty proud gal, and I can't for the life of me find any valid reason why anyone should lie about their origin, or anything else for that matter. Frankly, I do not ascribe to the stupidity theory of white supremacy, and to try to hide the fact that I am a Negro for economic or any other reasons or other advantages would have meant that I swallowed, whole hog, the idea of black inferiority."
In 1952, Washington married a Stamford, Connecticut dentist, Hugh Anthony Bell, and moved to Greenwich, Connecticut. On June 28, 1994, Fredericka Fredi Washington Bell died from pneumonia following a series of strokes at St. Joseph Medical Center in Stamford, Connecticut. She was 90 years old.
This has been African American History is American History. The episode you've been listening to,
She Refused to Pass, the story of Fredi Washington,
was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley.
The voice actor for this episode was Kim Bay as Fredi Washington. I'm Harlan Kearsley, and on behalf of everyone involved with African American History is American History, thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Now, once you hit that bell icon, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again.
And please, stay safe.
African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2024.